And we're back, and we're joined by Shawn Stuart, the producer of the incredible Tower Records documentary, All Things Must Pass. How are you today, Shawn?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It's a real pleasure to see this film, and I got to tell you, it was so bittersweet. Having been growing up, a child of the 60s and 70s to, see what Tower Records did and, was so inspiring. But to see, the demise of it had to be one of the toughest things I've ever watched. It was really, really emotional seeing, all those people lose their jobs, and of course, us music lovers lose such hallowed halls.
Yeah, I think we realized pretty quickly that we were stepping into something that was near and dear to a lot of people. Everywhere we went, everywhere we walked, anyone we brought the project up to immediately had a story to tell or a connection to the company, and it's just constantly amazing to us to see how many people Russ Solomon and Tower Records, truly touched and truly affected. Music's such an important part of all of our lives, so it's pretty amazing what they brought and what they provided and how quickly it all disappeared.
Well, it was a chapter of American history, that is now closed, and even though I know the name's still alive out there in Japan, it does little good for us here, in America that are certainly involved in the music business. Give us a little bit of background and let us know how this project evolved and how Colin Hanks came to direct this and how this whole thing germinated.
Yeah, I think it was probably the fall of 2007, and Colin and I were out to dinner in New York, and he turned to me and said I was talking to a family friend from Sacramento, and she asked, we were talking about the fact that Tower Records had gone to the wayside, and she said, I just can't believe it all started on, two shelves of a little pharmacy back in the 1940s. And Colin asked me, did you know that? And, we're both from Sacramento originally, and neither of us had known that history. And I think the minute that we both found that fact, we realized it started like that. It hit the highest of highs. And then it fell apart incredibly fast and incredibly quick, and really mirrors a lot of what happened and what transpired in the music industry as a whole. We immediately felt like there had to be a documentary here and a story to tell. And we sat down probably about 6 months later with Russ, and within 10 minutes we're both looking at each other, just slack-jawed. We knew that this was a story we wanted to tell, and Russ was a character that was going to make for an incredible documentary subject.
Well, Russ is an amazing man, and to see it start from such humble beginnings, like you say, in the Tower drugstore, which became, the first Tower Records in Sacramento. I, living here in Hollywood, knew obviously the Sunset Strip location as the epicenter of the music business. That store I know was a flagship store for them, not obviously the first, but with all the record companies lining the blocks just west of that, it was obviously a showcase store and a flagship, for so many of them. But, everywhere I traveled, from Seattle to, from Fresno to Phoenix, New York City, I always, looked up Tower Records, first. So obviously Russ was game to have this story told, and he had no one else ever approach him on this. Were you the first guys to want to tell his story?
We definitely weren't the first. I think we might have been the first that sat down with him. That I would say it felt to us like it was the right fit. Obviously, this is a guy who's changed the landscape of music drastically. We think, and at this point, I think there's a lot of people out there that feel, Russ Solomon really does belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This is a guy, there's never been a retailer put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and this is a guy who I would say did as much for rock and roll in the music industry as any singular artist. From a retail standpoint, he's as big as it gets. But, I think we went in there and we really kind of had an idea of what we wanted this to be, and then it was just about sitting down and getting through it all. And one of the things you said that's really interesting is you could go to pretty much any store in any city nationwide, and you got a vibe of that area. If you went to a Tower Records in Nashville, it was completely different from the Tower Records in Seattle or a Tower Records in Los Angeles. And one of the interesting things we always find is people think that Tower Records was started in their hometown because they were all so unique, but they all had that same central unifying cool factor with cool people that worked there that were knowledgeable, that were interesting. And that was kind of the band of misfits that Russ was able to kind of collectively pull together when he started this company, that, it really was a foundation of independent music and a mom and pop, feel for a major chain record store.
Well, he certainly made it fun, to shop for music, and like I say, being a frequent customer of the Sunset Strip store, I was just amazed. Obviously, I wasn't an employee there, but just someone in the music business that would go there as a music fan. I personally had the opportunity to meet and see the voracious buying appetite as a fan of both Elton John and Bruce Springsteen at that store. So I can only imagine what the employees saw on a daily basis coming through there. But obviously Elton and Bruce are featured in the movie, and I know they have a soft spot in their heart for the store, and I personally saw each one of them spend thousands of dollars like it was nothing. They obviously went to Tower because of not only the feel, but the extensive depth of catalog. It had everybody there, and that's where they, their music love was limitless. Talk about, the challenge to get some of these superstars, how you put the word out, and some of the responses you got back that wanted to be a part of this.
Yeah, it's one of those interesting things. It being such a beloved company that touched so many of these artists, it wasn't as difficult to get them to agree. It was the harder part's always finding time to get them in a chair and actually do the interview. But Elton John, he was notoriously one of those guys that was shopping there, buying 2 records, one for his house in Los Angeles and one for his house in Miami. So he'd buy 2 of everything. He told us that he unequivocally has spent more money at Tower Records than any other human being. And then Bruce Springsteen, Tower was a midnight, late night hang. Music artists would meet up with each other there late night. And we've heard the stories from Olivia Harrison. We've heard the stories, from Bruce and Patty about them, showing up, meeting up with the E Street guys at a Tower Records location in New York late at night, and just really it becoming like a place where they could cultivate their music tastes while having the incredible pleasure of seeing their own music stacked in the shelves. And getting them to sit down, the minute we sat down with all of them, the stories just flowed. It was pretty incredible to hear how much they had to say and how much goodwill and how much nostalgia they all had for this incredible place that they learned so much about music at.
Yeah, it was, like I say, a definite spot. You knew they had everything that was new, but then again, they had the depth of the catalog, so you'd always discover something that you needed in your collection. And, of course, going from vinyl to cassettes into CDs, people were, repurchasing their whole catalogs, on CD at that point. So always, a great place to hang out. I personally saw so many in-store appearances, both live performances in the store on Sunset and, big signings. The very last signing I saw, and I don't know if they did one after that, because I know some bad news came down very shortly thereafter, but Hugh Hefner and the Playmates were signing the box set of Playboy After Dark on Sunset, and that was the last one I saw there. But just an electric store, and the fact that building is still there on Sunset is kind of bittersweet. Every time you go by it, it's comforting to know that building is still there, but the loss of not being able to go in there and feel that energy. So I'm kind of glad they haven't bulldozed it. I think if there was a strip mall or a nondescript office building, it would probably hurt more.
Well, maybe someday soon someone will bring it back to life, and maybe a band will play there, bring that energy back, and who knows what can happen here in the future with that building. But I think everything has a chance at a second life, and that building definitely holds enough historical, importance that I sure would like to see that happen.
No question about it. And I guess the tale goes that they had just gotten so big and so extended in credit and finances, over time that Russ simply lost control. The banks could actually outvote him by the end of it, that liquidating their assets was a faster profit than to readjust any kind of plan he might have for the long term.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything too much away. I mean, we don't want anyone to know what happens to the company in the end of the movie. I say that jokingly. But no, yes, it definitely was one of those things where there's a lot of hubris there, and this is a company that eventually got a little too, out over its skis, and really kind of lost control of the bottom line and what it could and couldn't do. I think there's a real human story in there too. It's an American dream story. This is a guy, again, who built it from two shelves on the back of a pharmacy into his his life's work, and it was taken from him. But along the way, what he achieved and the people he surrounded himself with, and what the company came to represent, really does hold some incredible stories that I think people will find inspiring and interesting, music fans and non-music fans alike. So we're really excited for people to have a chance to see the movie here on October 16th as it starts to populate into theaters nationwide.
Well, I know it's a heartwarming story to see that American dream come alive and see what they created. And I had heard rumors at the end that Transworld had actually made an offer to not save the entire company, but to purchase several other stores, and it seemed like to be a kind of an underhanded, corporate, raider move that cut them out of their bid. And I don't know if you had heard those stories, but they definitely wanted to save Tower Sunset and a few other key stores. Of course, that's the company that had the warehouse and so many other great LA stores. But to hear that kind of shifty move that actually in one way could have actually saved a few of the stores, a few of the landmark stores, made it even that much creepier to go into one of the stores that was liquidating and to see that the heart and soul had been just torn out of the company, and they were selling the fixtures and the contents of those stores for whatever they could get. It was a disheartening feeling to go into those stores in that last month.
Yeah, we talk quite a bit, after having made the movie and retrospectively looking back at kind of the process of making it and what they went through, and playing a little game of hindsight is 2020. You really realize that had they been able to peel back kind of some of their expansion, if they were only in, the major cities, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, if they had been able to kind of peel back to a core set of 10, maybe 12 stores, there's a good chance the company could still be thriving right now in those markets. You never know the other outside market factors that could have, somehow thwarted that idea in itself as well. But, there's a good chance that with the company still doing well in other places, and us seeing how Amoeba is doing in Los Angeles and Berkeley from a record store standpoint, they really might have been able to try to keep some semblance of the company intact.
Sure. And tell us a little bit about, your partner in this, Colin Hanks. Obviously, this is his directorial debut, and growing up in Sacramento, he felt this energy firsthand. And of course, if there was any involvement or support from his father, Tom Hanks, and his current wife, Rita, I know they're very big music fans and supporters of music.
Yeah, I think for Colin, being a huge music fan, this story was just too good to not take a stab at. It checks that box, and then the fact that it is from our hometown, there was definitely a huge element of civic pride. And yes, of course. I mean, I think we all lean on the people closest to us for input, feedback, and to help us through a process like this. It's always great to have a great cast of people around you, whether it's your executive producer, or the editor on the film, or your fellow filmmakers, or even family members who understand story or the business, and how things can pan out best to tell a great story. So I think this definitely was a perfect directorial debut for Colin. We're both huge fans of documentary. This is definitely a market that we love and consume a lot of documentary films ourselves. So we're excited to be in this space. We've done a bit of work with ESPN Films and their 30 for 30 brand in the last few years as well, and just really enjoy the doc space a ton.
Well, it's certainly my favorite form of entertainment these days. You can go see somebody's fictional fantasy piece and marvel at the CGI and whatever, but to me, looking at either a person or a company or a team or some great story, and seeing the underdogs, persevere and come through, like you say, the American dream, the Tower Records did become, is very inspiring. And we're talking about real people, and not only was Russ Solomon the hero behind this, but you saw all the employees, to see what those people went through, and probably giving up better paying jobs just to be part of that Tower family, or being able to go to a job where they didn't have to cut their hair or put a tie on, and be a part, no matter how small of a spoke they were in the American music business. It was very, very heartening to see, and we're definitely going to spread the word and encourage everyone to go out and see All Things Must Pass. Now, in closing, Shawn, is there any life lessons, anything you can impart on the young entrepreneurs out there that you kind of learned from a Russ Solomon and the story of Tower?
Yeah, I think it's something that we definitely implemented into our filmmaking process. I think, one of the things that Russ did and does to this day is empower other people to do their job, empower other people to be involved in every facet of the process, to really help make it a collaborative process. And then he gives the credit to everyone but himself. I in my life have never met a person who's more humble about what he's achieved and what's happened. The number of times he told us we were crazy for even wanting to tell his story, and then turned around and pointed at everybody around him and gave them every ounce of credit for what happened. He really is the kind of guy that he seeps into you, and you're really able to, you're able to really glean a lot from him and his management style and the kind of person he is.
Well, again, Shawn, we appreciate all the insights. Such a great work. I congratulate you and Colin and the whole team for an amazing job. Want everybody to go out and please check out All Things Must Pass in theaters and support it, no matter what where it goes from there, whether it be broadcast and DVD. Thank you so much, Shawn. We really appreciate it, and please, best of luck. Can't wait to see your next work.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.